here with Jake Nightingale. Jake, what's up?
How are you guys? Appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I guess, Jake, if you just want to start by talking about how you got started in racing, and Tanner and I will just throw questions your way.
Absolutely. So, racing wise, I've wanted to be a race car driver ever since I can remember. There's pictures of my dad laying with my dad when I was 2-3 years old, watching the NASCAR stuff and all that kind of fun stuff too. But really, what got my start of all things was remote control cars. I met a good friend of mine who's still one of my best friends to this day. His name's Eric Kenningsman. Met in junior high. He was racing remote control cars on a circle track, just like we do here, dirt track. And I heard him talking about that, and kind of made buddies out of him and started racing those things. And after a couple years of that, we jumped in a go-kart, and I think we ran 4 nights, and Dad got tired of that real quick and stuck me in a modified, and we had a monster of a motor in a modified for a 15-year-old kid. We had had a couple cars we went through just kind of playing with stuff, and ended up with this big old hog of a 406 that I did not need. Dad had two different return springs on the carburetor in case I got out of control, so that thing would shut off quick. But I ran those for a while, last 11-12 years. First season we had just a kind of a used car. We just, Dad wanted to make sure I was willing to do the work and really wanted to do it, and we absolutely did. Here we stand. But ended up working with Mullins for the last 11-12 years on the modified stuff. Had 3 of their cars. Still got one of them sitting in the stable. I let my most recent one go. It's racing out of US race stuff now. Chad Lyle's driving that car. Don't want to miss driving the modified, but the first to tell you. But for looking at our schedule for what the late model's going to do, we had maybe 5 nights max. We're going to be able to race that modified, and that's a waste of a race car, especially for something that's that new, that nice. 'Cause it's a 22 model. It had probably 60 nights on, if I had to guess. I didn't track the data too hard. IMCA is not a super hard life on a modified. But ended up it's racing out there, and we're going to full-time this deal, so don't count me out on the modified yet, but we're going to take a little hiatus and full-time the super late model stuff for sure.
Nice. I guess you kind of hit on that, but I guess talk about the transition from going modified up to now, like you said, going full-time with the late model.
Absolutely. So last year was our first season on the late model at all. The year prior, so that would have been 24, I got the opportunity to go hot lap one out at Hutchinson. I ran second in my modified that night, and I flat out gave it away. I was livid. I'd already had after I got everything loaded up, because we ran third and the late models ran last that night, and I'd already loaded my stuff, and Dad calls me and goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "Heading home." Got the truck in reverse and getting out of here. And he goes, "You're loaded?" I said, "Yep, I'm done. I'm going home." I was livid. I couldn't stand it. I was so mad I couldn't stand it. I ran second 9 times to Brett Berry last year. Back in 24, and I ran second 10 times. 9 of them were to him. God, that sucked. I'm the first to tell you, love Brett to death. No hard feelings whatsoever. He and I are good buddies outside of this, and appreciate for everything he did, because without having to race somebody as strong as him, we couldn't have got as good as we were either. Because we did end up running the regional title both in 23 and 24 for IMCA, so very grateful for those opportunities and what we got to do with that. But to get back to the story though, on the late model stuff, I went and after I'd gotten back and he goes back out of the trailer, my dad goes, "You want to hot lap a late model?" I said, "Well, of course I do." So threw my fire suit back on, ran over, and actually raced on tonight. Dana Delbert Smith let me drive Delbert's car, the white 92 car. Went out there, made 7 laps, and I've never even looked at one of the things before. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I was on laps on par with QuickTime that night. In all fairness, I was on a brand new right rear. I was on a rubbered up racetrack. You just hold the thing on the wood. Don't get me wrong, but still to be that comfortable that quick was incredible. And then right after Boone that year, Dad sat me down and said, "Hey, we're going to go late model racing." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Well, yeah." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Well, you were hauling ass in that late model, and it's time for a change." I said, "Okay, here we sit." So we kind of did some digging around on what cars to go get and why, and had some great help from a guy named Chase Younghands out of Manhattan. So he still helps us quite a bit. He helps Dan and Delbert, all kinds of guys around here helping this local racing scene stay big and strong. Got a hold of a 24 model Rocket house car. Got incredibly lucky to get a hold of one of those, and ran the full season in that car. Had a ton of fun. Then at the end of the season, we started digging around on, we really want to full-time this deal now. That's probably where we can get the modified around. Is one, obviously doing both is cool, and my favorite T-shirt to this day is the one that's got my late model M modified on it. I've got one of those hanging in the shop just so it has somewhere to stay, because it's still my favorite. We got new shirts, by the way, so if you guys need something, holler at me. But to the same conversation, it's one of those deals feels, when there's a both a mod and late model hanging on there. It's pretty cool. I did double duty twice. That put a whooping on me, but first to tell you. First night we ever did it was out at Dodge City, and the features were back to back. Didn't get a break.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Oh, pure joy. I ended up, I think I ran third in the modified that night, and then immediately dropped my car in tech and just jumped out and ran away, and ran to my trailer, jumped in the late model, we're back on the track in 90 seconds. And both races went green to checkered. And racing a modified for 25 laps green is one thing. Racing 25 laps green in the moisture in a super is a whole nother. I mean, you're in for a ride. These things will beat on you and whip on you if you don't know what's going on and don't know how to keep up with them. I mean, they're funny enough, they're easier to drive than a modified. They really are. With this much tire on them, 14-inch wide tires, the better shocks, the better air, all that kind of stuff too. They respond to input so much better. They're so much more receptive, and especially this XR2 we're driving now is so forgiving. It's incredible. So you can really bury this thing off in there and try some stuff and not have to worry too bad about spinning her around. In testing on Thursday out here, I was just to see what it would do. I could run the whole way around the place and never lift off throttle. It was whole wide open. Now, did I shred our right rear? Yeah, the first own that too.
That wasn't the qualifying setup for last night.
No, it is sitting in a pile right back over here in the corner. That is the scrap pile. We have a for sale pile and a scrap pile, and that one is definitely trash. But outside of that, made a second session, went out, hot lap, felt really, really good. Last night came out here, set quick time overall. I was terrified to go qualify because we had so on the pill draw with the Rev series, they split qualifying up into two groups. And I ended up pulling the 71 out of 75 pill, so I drew 24 out of 26. I got beat by two guys for top pill of the night. But funny enough, qualifying 11th in Group 2, which the racetrack typically slows down the longer you go in these qualifying sessions. These late models are just so hard on the surface. We still had quick time overall. Not by much. It was close. I mean, first, second, and third in our group, we were all in the 18-1s. I just managed to pull an 18-1-1, and second place pulled an 18-1-8. So it shows you how close and how competitive these cars really are. And for something that has this kind of power and this kind of tire, I mean, the car we're driving is right around 900 horsepower. I mean, it's like driving a laser beam. It's nuts. It's so fast. It's so on track. Because I was thinking about putting a restrictor plate in, trying to calm it down for slick, and we just figured we'd send it on out there. And I wasn't on the wood the whole way around like in time trial. Well, not time trials, but in, testing on Thursday. Don't get me wrong, but I was just giving it everything it had, and the fact that we came home quick time was incredible. Had the best start of my life in the dash. It lasted all the way to turn 1. Stuck it in a rut and going into turn 1, got passed by 3 cars. I had the lead driving off into 1, and I left 4th and traded sliders with the 11M car. For a couple laps, he ended up getting me back, though. I was just overdriving it because I was pissed at it. We all know who that is, how that is anyway. It's I'm not mad at the car. I'm just mad. God damn it, I gave it away. It can be a little frustrating at time to time, but if you're not this motivated and this excited to go drive these things, and you don't care that much, it just is what it is. And then future time came around, started 4th, took 2nd right on the start, had a hell of a start. Was chasing Ross down, had a couple yellows. At one point we had a glance at the lead. It was right there. I mean, just looking down the barrel, coming down through it, yellow flag. Impeccable timing. Chased down the same lap cars a couple times. Not negotiating through traffic, and the last one that really kind of put the last nail in the coffin for us was it got squeezed in between the guy racing me for 2nd and then a lap car with a flat tire. So just kind of got stuck, and they called through a yellow 4 to go, and if it's 5 to go or less, Rev stacks you single file, which I can understand why. But to the same conversation, I really would like to double file up, because I think I could have had another dog in the fight for the top spot there. But the part of the game, car straight, low body work this morning, a couple fresh sets of tires, ready to go for tonight.
You talked about Rev's format just a little bit, and I was curious from the driver's standpoint, because a lot of times, you would qualify and then you just kind of redraw for your pill between those top 6 guys. Mm-hmm. Do you like it better to go out and do a pole dash and earn your spot, or is it more favorable just to draw and hope you hit the setup?
Oh, I will absolutely race the dash any day of the week. I want to earn what I've got. Same thing like the qualifying conversation. I mean, like for the IMCA stuff, I understand why the invert's there. I really do, especially with cars that are that close, that tight, and clearly we are too. But the same conversation for those local guys. If I really had a true opinion, that pill draw thing for the reset, I would like to see the IMCA do maybe a top 6, not a top 10. So, I mean, like if you've got, for example, Dodge City, you got me, and you got Brett Berry, and you got the Blacks, and you got Clay Sellard, you got those guys all lined up, and it really comes down to who's going to draw up front. Because our lap times roll within a tenth of each other, at the big end. And, if Brett or Clay starts in the front row and I start ninth, I'll run second or third, but by the time they've checked out, it takes so long to run them down without a couple perfect yellows. It's just hard to make a pretty good fight, where as these conversations here, when you get to race for it and get to earn it, I'm firm on standing by what I earned.
Yeah, but if you start 10th and got to work towards the front, it makes it more exciting for me.
Oh, absolutely, get that.
I get something to talk about.
Oh, 100%. But for the same conversation, though, I mean, you saw me running down chasing Ross all night long. We're right there for a little bit of time, and Don Geist and I threw a hell of a battle out there as well. And but even between the B feature too, I think when you've got those cars stacked up that are that fast, that quick, and getting to watch us negotiate lap traffic and that kind of stuff too, especially when you got the two fastest cars, just getting after it and going. That's a hell of a show. I mean, like watching World Outlaw Guy and Lucas Oil Guys both. When you're really watching those shows, I think those guys put on some of the best shows around. They just the cars are so capable. The drivers behind them are absolutely fearless. To someday be in the ranks with those guys is an absolute dream of mine, and get to learn from those guys and watch. And then they have pretty close to the same equipment, if not the same equipment those guys do, is absolutely incredible. I just can't wait to see what these cars can do for the capability. The car is so much better than I am. I'll be the first one to tell you. I'll be the first one to tell you too. I'm not the fastest race car driver in the world. I just work my ass off. I've got more time and more effort and everything. Like in the modified stuff, when I started out, 81 Speedway, where I started racing, had 3 levels of modifieds. They had a rookie division. They had a AAA, which is kind of like if you go from rookie to AAA, it's about from here to here. And then when you win 5, you got to move up. Well, in my rookie series, I won 3. And I kind of got yanked out of 2 more, so I ended up moving up anyway. And I was also driving my first new Mullins car at the time, so I had a lot better equipment, a lot better stuff, and we ended up winning 5 that season. We actually, it took a while to get going, but we won the last 4 out of 6. And the other 2 that I didn't win, I flat out gave away too. The first time I should have won 6 in a row, but coulda, woulda, shoulda. Hindsight's 20/20. But moved up to race with the big dogs, and after that, with what they call their credit king class, what we'd all call A mods, and I went almost 4 years without winning a race. Not to sound too anal about it, but I went 1,351 days between wins. Not like I was counting. But I'm awfully persistent, like I said. But the same conversation, from that point, I mean, I've been really, count my days here. I went from October of 16 to May of 20 between wins, and I've got that day 1351 trophy sitting in my office. Good little reminder every time you go. But from that point, there's been 14 championships now with the Rebel title we won last year. To those things, to grow that fast and that exponentially, it's really about putting your head on the right place and putting all your effort in one basket, because you can chase a bunch of little things and be average at a couple things, or try really, really hard and be good at one thing. And I'd rather be excellent at one thing than average at a bunch of things. And that's the whole conversation with why we've got a full-time late model as opposed to a late model and a modified. That double duty night we talked about in Dodge City, I would have been third in the modified and second late model, and we were okay in both, but we weren't excellent in either car. And if you have enough crew guys to run 2 cars, like when we raced in Texas back in November, I mean, Cade Dillard won everything that everybody showed up for in the modifieds and late models, and hands down to him, the guy can drive a race car, and he's got a great team, and he built his own stuff too. So, like I said, kudos to him. But I mean, the guy probably had 10 people out there wrenching, if I had to guess. Like it just seemed like he had a swarm of people. Which, again, great for him. Not dogging the guy at all for having the capability and having the crew to go do those things. And I'm firmly believe that if we had technically 2 crew chiefs and 2 guys running the show on each car, I really think we could be just as competitive in those efforts too. But between our real strong team we've got between me and my dad, my crew chief Nick Ballman, and I've got Colton in there helping me too. He's a new guy to our team, doing a lot of learning, a lot of teaching. He actually works at our quick claim facility as well. Great kid. Sometimes he's a little bit of a mute button, but we love him to death. It's been super exciting to get to, like, for example's sake, I was in here mounting up some tires. I shredded the set last night racing through the rubber, and he just kind of saw what I was doing and picked up where I left off when I went to go grab something to drink, and by the time I turned around, he already had one left rear off and another one back on a wheel and starting to lock it back down. So to have that kind of effort between somebody, and like Nick and Phil both working these cars all week long. I work on them in the mornings. I'm actually a finance manager at the dealership back at the store, so we decide what car you want to buy. I'm the guy that does your paperwork for you, for what bank you're going to use, all that kind of stuff. And I do that in the evenings. So I work on these cars from 4:45 in the morning to about 11. And I run home, take a quick shower, and do finance from noon until we close. And that's Monday through Thursday. And Friday, Saturday's racing, and Sunday's wash day. And then we
the dreaded wash day.
Oh hell, that's one of my favorite days.
Oh, everybody says they hate it.
Oh, if you hate wash day, you hate your race car. Don't, I'm happy to go get it dirty and use it up. By all means, they'll make more of them. I promise you that. But there's a certain satisfaction comes through because I'm a stickler when it comes to washing race cars. You can ask Colton, you can ask Nick, you can ask Dad. There's not a spot of dirt on my race cars when I'm done with them. I've got them hanging on the lift. I got the foam cannon. I got scrubbers, whole 9 yards. It might as well be a new race car when I'm done cleaning besides the tire marks.
So me and Sheldon have a friend who at one point let a tree grow in his race car because a squirrel dropped the nut in there. So no trees in the late model?
No, sir.
Well, and I can go out on a limb, but if you stick a Mountain Dew bottle in the car, you're probably not getting walk away.
Wow.
You might get a talking to.
That's a little more money than the Sport Compact. I'll mess with the Sport Compacts.
A little different conversation there for sure.
A little bit.
Yep.
Different dollar signs.
Yeah. Just a slight tickle there. But yeah, I mean, there's no argument on these things. These things are expensive to go run. I mean, like from the modified, the super late model program, we couldn't be more grateful to sponsors to help us be able to do this, because we had some great, a lot of great sponsors on the modified too, and all those guys have carried over and then some for the team and for our store. I mean, if you go look at my Facebook post, there's no way I could possibly remember everybody that's on there, because I mean, if you just go look at the list, there's 24 businesses every time we post that are all involved in this race car doing something to help us move forward or help us make this car faster. Like, of course, my helmet and board, BG products, Rocket Race chassis, Cornet race engines. I mean, they're just, it's incredible what these guys can do and how fast they can really make us, and with the right tools at our disposal, how fast we can really be. Because I think we ran 19 nights in late model last year, and this is night 3 for us. We ran first night of the year, we turned this thing into a skateboard down in Enid. Had to replace half the frame. First night out in a brand new car. And if you guys recognize this car, if anybody watched some of the ads from PRI or was at PRI, this is the PRI car. To go out there and be night 1, and we went from 7th to 2nd in Enid. With 4 to go, we got involved in a 12-car pileup, got a little help. We had to strip the car down to a barrel roller. It had a bent rear end in it, and upper control arms, and a seat. That's about it. We put that car on a truck to Shinston, West Virginia, where Rocket Race chassis is located. Those guys got it Thursday morning. By Thursday night, they had it stripped. By Friday afternoon, they had replaced the right side rail, the X, and the entire rear stub. Monday, they had it powder coated, and by Tuesday, they had the front suspension back on it, a new rear end back in it, all the rear suspension hooked up, and a new cockpit and a new deck in it, and back on its way to me. We got that car Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and Friday evening, we raced that car in Texas. And we ran second down there too. So, and again, started 7th down there as well. It's kind of a funny math equation, the way that stuff all falls together. But funny enough, ran second to Ross both nights in both those conversations. So, the kid's got incredible talent. Kudos to him. The kid can drive. I did not mean to door him last night, if anybody saw it. Just, driving for every inch I could have, and he squeezed a little bit, and I was driving through there, and, part of the game. Tire marks are good for everybody. Good service for the crowd, and nobody tore anything up besides the little wrinkle quarter panel on my hot rod, so we're doing okay.
Something that I noticed last night, announcing from the infield here in Colby, is the closing rate in these late models when it comes to the top teams to some of the mid-pack backmarker teams. How does one prepare for that? Because it is completely different from an IMCA modified. So what is your learning curve there when you're catching a guy at 85, 90 miles an hour compared to 75 to 80?
No, 100%. So the car speed is so much higher in these things. I mean, it's like driving a laser beam is what I tell everybody. I mean, we were sitting there talking about last night, 2 o'clock, going over notes this morning. We hadn't wound down yet. We were still pretty fit. A little pissed off from running third, and and fair confidence, definitely should have won that deal in my opinion. But there's a term for opinions. We all have one. But to the same conversation on deal, we were just doing gear math based on what size these tires are, and according to what rear gear we had in the car, and 8,500 RPM on the tack, we were doing 125 mile an hour. So not quite 85, 90. We're moving in these things, and these cars are so big, and we're all doing the same speed, so it hides a lot of that illusion. That's obviously assuming these things are dead hooking, which we all know that at the end of the straightaway they're pretty close, but they're not. So 120 mile an hour is definitely a fair math on those conversations, but we're absolutely flying when you're barreling off into the corners in these things. But when you're chasing lap traffic like you're talking about, you're closing so much quicker. the biggest thing you had to prepare for is not only what those cars are going to do, because if you probably remember, there were some of these things that were entering on the bottom and in the middle of 3 were on the top, and then back on the bottom coming off 4. It's a long way around this racetrack if you want to drive it that way. I mean, you can, but that's between you and God, I guess. I mean, it really is longer to go up and around and back down the corner than it is just to take the top. I promise. I've been on both sides of that conversation. But with the same thing, when you're carrying, not just like 5 to 10 mile an hour more wheel speed like a modified, when you're really carrying 30 mile an hour faster, you close so quick, you've got to make quick split-second reactions. And the other thing a lot of people don't, the conversation's been out there, but a lot of things people really recognize is how aero-dependent these race cars really are. That was the hardest thing in the last 4 laps for me, starting single file, and it's really down to 1 lane with those guys at that point. It just really started to lock down. When that car doesn't have air on the nose, it will not turn. Now, it has enough meat on these 14-inch wide tires. When you turn the wheel left, the car will rotate, but it doesn't stick. It just pivots. That's why if you go back and watch the video from the last 4 nights, every lap I chased Don Geist off into 1 or 3. You'd watch my car 4-wheel skid a little bit, and I'd check up, drag the brakes, and get her to come back down and drive back around, but I was never going to catch him. It's just when it's that locked down and you can't get the car to hold those to the ground, you've got nothing for them. That's why you got to find another lane, and that's the hardest part about rubbered up racetracks on these cars. And I understand that we had a lot of cars and the weather was weird and all that kind of stuff too. The crew did a great job, keeping the racetrack together. The sport mod guys put on a hell of a show. I'm a big fan of Blaine. Blaine and I used to pit next to each other back in Hayes, back when I was racing out there. Kudos to him. Last lap, not quite last corner, but back straightaway for only lap to lead. Kudos to him. Those are my favorites. I've had a couple races like that where I've led nothing but the last corner, last lap. So those are some of the best ones to ride home about. I've had more than one of those happen at Salina. We had a night where we actually knocked the head gaskets out of the late model back in May of 25. Got a motor turnaround, and we were going to go race it in Dodge City because we got it back the same week. Again, hats off to Cornette for turning us around that fast. But an hour to go before Dodge City started racing, called it off due to rain, and there was still a modified hanging on the list. We had somewhere else to go, and went and looked at schedules, and Hayes and Salina were both racing, and Salina's half the distance, and it actually happened to be 1,000 to wind show that night. Just got lucky. Rather be lucky than good any day of the week. But modified hadn't been touched in a month. I had it washed, clean, everything's lubed up, fluids are out of it, and threw some oil and transmission fluid and grease in it, and grabbed a set of tires off the rack, put a gear in it, and trucked on up to Salina. We led the last about 30 foot of the straightaway in the heat race. And just like we're talking about the draw and the Salina stuff, since I didn't have any points at Salina, I only raced the modified twice in Salina all year last year. I just got to start scratch even because I ran the heat race. And to be frank, the only reason I even ran the heat race anyway was just to make sure the thing ran, see if I need a tune on her or not. But drove up through the field. Actually, so Cale and Corey Lagoon are a father and son team out there, and those guys are absolutely incredible. Love those guys to death. Always have great conversations with them. And Corey and I have put on some pretty good shows, and so Cale and I. That kid can drive. The kid's got a ton of talent ahead of him. I can't wait to see where his future takes him and what he can do in those cars. He's had a lot of great talent and a lot of great stories in the, I believe it's not quarter midgets, but there's so many different little wing cars, and I can't keep all that stuff straight, let me first tell you. But the same conversation for that kid to hop in a modified, something that's got way less tire, way less traction, way less aero, all that kind of stuff, and be as aggressive and as competitive as he has, as quick as he has, is awesome. I got Corey at the line, like just by a bumper in the heat race. And then we were, same thing, start scratch, and it stayed green for almost the entire race. I was running second, but Kayla checked out. And, I might have been a 10th better than he was, but I wasn't going to catch him in time. Yellow 3 to go, stacked him back up, and everybody's running the bottom. And there's 2 ways you can look at it when everybody's on the bottom. You can either just hang in line and, lock in your second place spot, or you can try something. And I didn't have anything to lose, so I tried something. And sickled the top around 1 and 2. With 2 to go, carried some momentum, and coming to the white, Kale was running the bottom and protecting the top, and there was about 3/4 of the width of a modified between him and the wall, and I stuck my nose in there. Went bouncing down the wall, junked both passenger side tires and the left front wheel, knocked the body off both sides of it, not clean off, but showed signs of it both ends, and I led 3/4 of a lap of the A feature, I just carried it down carried enough speed off into 1 that I was able to clear him and came home first. And Kale was awfully grumpy that night, and I can't blame him. I would have been too. I've been beat like that more than once too, so you know how that feels. But again, it's learning curves like that makes us all greater and makes us all win. It's just like last night. Did that suck? Yeah, but we learned something. Man, the car setup was incredible. I've never driven anything that can drive like that car did last night, especially in the slick, and starting to rubber and still be drivable on both ends is insane. You're normally a little free in the slick, and then you're so tight it's silly in the rubber, and the car was good both sides. I've never driven something that can do both ends of that conversation. If you can't tell, I have a really good time driving these things. It's an absolute blast. It's the best thing in the world. Anybody tells you anything else, they're wrong. But again, when we talked about the whole conversation, we all have opinions, and however you want to read that math. But couldn't be more grateful to race with these guys and race at the talent level that we are at this side too. I mean, because there's a lot of good cars here tonight. Some of these guys drove like 15 hours. Yeah. I mean, Bragg drove from Fort Worth. Yep. There's probably guys that drove further. The fact that you can drive from Fort Worth to Colby, Kansas and not be the long haul award is insane to me. Yeah. Hell, I got the long haul award when I went down to Kennedale last week, and I just happened to get lucky. I wasn't chasing the long haul award. I just wanted to see if my race car would go. Because before qualifying at Kennedale, again, we'd thrown the car together and we had it ready to load Thursday night. I mean, we built a car in less than 36 hours from what we had. Don't get me wrong, did we already build it once, kind of where everything went? Of course. I'm not gonna lie about that either, but had the big pieces sitting around, and whenever putting together them a second time, even though it's right, nothing's ever quite the same the second time, no matter how perfect anybody's jig is or how many you build. So everything's fighting you, everything's tweaked. The body took the longest out of anything. I really should have just let Rocket put a body on the thing, but it's the same conversation. I was sitting there, counting dollars with how expensive that deal got. It's a hell of a way to start the season. But I will tell you, I do think after, cutting the tension out of that car and replacing what we did, I really think this car is better than when it was a new car. I'll be the first to tell you my fastest modified I ever had was my 16 Mullins. The thing's got 293 nights on it. It just refuses to die. I mean, it's so wore out. You can stick two fingers between where the main frame rail meets the cross member, meets the right side kick out on the Chevelle stub. It is the fastest modified I've ever driven. It responds. It does everything I want it to. And with that frame rail blown out like that, you can take a little load out of the right front. She really sticks. It's a great car. The hardest part about that car, and why it's still sitting in my shop to this day, and I didn't sell it like my newest one, is that car's one hard whack or one rough racetrack away from being yard art, and I'd rather be able to look at that car when I'm 80 years old and go, I won 7 championships in that thing. And I fully intend to do that. Now, may I put it together one more time and drive it one more time and say I did it? Maybe. But for now, I did sell both my crate motors. They're both out here racing in western Kansas, so same thing. Glad all those parts are out there being used and not just sitting in a shop or burning somewhere, not doing anything. Same thing. Race cars are a right to die or a right to rest, and that one definitely has. But like the 2022 car, it needs to be driven. And by God, it is. I had a couple good conversations with Chad, even kind of working on some setup stuff, trying to make that thing go. I haven't raced a USRA car in 5 or 6 years, but a lot of that stuff translate. The biggest thing is difference tires. The sidewall structure is so different, the tread's different, and what that American racer tire is built out of as opposed to the G60s and how those respond, your shock package, just the rules too. There's so many little stuff when I went from IMCA to USRA that had to change, like brake calipers, bell housing, drive shaft. All the body work's different. The shocks are different. You can't run Schrader valves. For the crate thing alone, having to put a motor in the thing. I tried to do the open motor thing. It did not work. Anybody says you can beat a crate for the way the crate rules were? Were there nights where open motors won? Yeah. But did they win most of the time? No. Do I like the crate thing? Do I understand why it works? Yeah. Again, why I was driving one. Had to. I couldn't outdo them. That disadvantage of steel heads on top of those things, as opposed to aluminum heads on a crate, is huge. And again, for the tire that we're on, even in the mud, it's not a 600 horsepower even in the mud is just on the edge of unusable on those things. Where think about trying to wheel that thing in the slick, it's just not going to happen. Or those crates, they just got a really smooth, even power curve, and you can just lay on the wood on them and they don't die. If you keep good oil in those things, they'll live forever. Remember, same thing, bringing up Corey again. Corey had a motor in at Boone that had like 160 nights on it or something crazy. It's not working real hard. It's as hard as it'll go, but it's just, nothing's at super high stresses at 6,800 RPM, and I think those things are like 9-to-1 compression or something. They're happy to be there, happy to be involved, and hell, there's a million of them out there too. But, they say you can change oil on those things once a month, change stuff every weekend. The stuff lives a lot longer too. But again, same conversation, kind of getting off on a tangent there, but can't tell I'm still a modified guy, can you? Yeah. Modified is still in my blood, so, you just may see me in a modified here later this season. Not my own car, of course, but go drive somebody else. Yeah. Like we're helping Jim Graves out here tonight. Jim's been out here helping wrenching all weekend, and he gets to race tonight as modified. And I'm not going to drive it tonight, but I will go out there and tune on a little bit, see what I can make it work. I haven't been under one of those BHE cars a whole lot yet, but from what I can see, those guys got some neat stuff going on, and I'm excited to see how fast we can make that car too. It's not just about a company, it's not just about that, it's about people and how we can make the sport better as a whole. For sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess so. Last year, I started kind of throwing it out to question more, or try and get kind of underneath the helmet, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like dive into the personality a little bit. I guess what does a typical race day look like for Jake Nightingale, and do you have any superstitions? That's what fans really want to know.
I'm not a big superstition guy. I'm not a big luck guy. Luck is just when preparedness meets opportunity.
Yep.
I'm not big on the whole, don't eat chicken on a race day. We were eating chicken wings in here last night. I ain't worried about it. No, or don't wear green. Hell, Jeremy Campbell's won more stuff than I can shake a stick out, and those cars have always been green.
Yeah.
But same conversation. What's a race day look like for me? We race just about every Friday, Saturday. So with the work side of my life in the finance world that I'm in, we have a crew of 4 guys there at the store that we all do the finance deal together. And the reason I work in the evenings is, well, those guys have kids, so they need their evenings to do stuff. So I hold down the fort for them, and they take care of me on the weekends, so I can go out here and do this racing deal. And I do work there's a word of hours in the wintertime to help soak up some of the time that I'm taking off for these guys too. But at the same time, it's a great relationship with those guys for them to help me the way that they do. But like, for example, Thursday, I'm coming out here to test. Normally don't go test on Thursdays, but we had some stuff we wanted to try, and I'd worked the Saturday before as well, so the guys gave me a little bit of freedom on that deal. Got out of the shop, worked till noon, held the fort down till the closing guys got there, and trucked on out here. I think we got here right about 5 o'clock, left the shop about 12:30. The old Kenworth here will run 80 if it wants to. 75's a little more comfortable though. Got here about 5:30, unloaded, and went down, shook it down. But a typical Friday, Saturday is the same process. I'll work till about noon, 1 o'clock, depending on how late I can work and still make racing on time. You would think racing on one of these rigs, it would take forever to set up, but once you get a rhythm going, you can be set up and ready to race in about 30 minutes. And that's not even hurrying. It takes longer to get the car out of the roof of the trailer than it does anything else. The cars are wider than the door. I mean, you have to pull the straps off the driver's door and the quarter panel, and there's these flopper deals inside the trailer, so when you're dragging the car out, because it pushes the nose on both sides of the trailer, just keep it from hooking anything. And things are like 9 feet wide if you put a tape measure on them. And then you get them into attitude when they're skewed. They might as well be 12 feet wide running down the racetrack. Things are flying. But the volume of air they move is nuts too. But it's the same thing. I am my own tire guy. I'm my own wash guy. Nick does a lot of the major maintenance. As soon as I wash those things, I always like to run them and get them up to operating temp, get all the water out of everything that water really needs to be away from, and all drain fluids for those guys. We change engine oil, transmission fluid, rear end grease every weekend. These cars are so hard on mechanical stuff that, oil is cheap compared to parts. Is it cheap? No, but is it cheaper in parts? Absolutely. Yep. And we've got a great partnership with a company called BG Products that takes care of all of us on that stuff too. Last year's car with this engine in it actually has their wheel dyno horsepower record at the shop there too, so that's kind of cool. But yes, there are videos of the car on the dyno if you'd like to see it. We do wind it out to 8,500 RPM, and I mean, you guys hear me doing it on a racetrack all the time, but to hear that car under direct load and be able to hear it constant, it's almost mind-boggling that these cars even stay together at all, much less the time that they do, because we can get 1,500 laps out of one of these motors between refreshes. But again, same thing, they're toting around 22 quarts of oil, and they do burn a little bit of it. That's not surprising though. When you're turning stuff as tight as we are, it's got to go somewhere, and you're going to burn a little bit of it. But in the same conversation though, the other thing too is being your own tire guy. I'm a firm believer the driver should be his own tire guy. Now, to have some help, like for example, Colton's out there scuffing tires, help me mount some stuff, yeah. But I'm a firm believer that a race car driver should always be his own tire guy. It's the only thing between you and the dirt. So we're going to keep it that way, and we're going to keep moving on with that stuff too. But with that being said though too, it's with all the tires, and you guys can see, standing here with the camera angle that you guys are at, it's hard to determine really where what you're going to need and why you're going to need it. That's why there's so many in this trailer. For example, we got 4 sets of right rears, 4 sets of left rears, and then right front wise, we're all really pretty the same. I'd like to keep the front it's pretty standard. Most guys, like especially super guys, like I was talking to my neighbor next door about what kind of stagger these guys are running. Does everybody tell you the whole truth when you're talking to them about what we're talking about, especially race car stuff? Of course not. There might be a sliver of truth to that conversation.
You got to wade through that.
Oh, 100%. You got to figure out what you can and can't read. But the same conversation, I run about 2 inches, 2.5 inches stagger on the back of my race car, and I like about a 1/2 inch on the front. I want the suspension to turn the car. I don't want the tires to turn the car. Everything about that, the rear tires, there needs to be some. I totally understand that too. But it seems like the less the rollout I run within reason, the better the car seems to go. Just driving straight off the straightaway. And if you go watch my qualifying run from last night, how straight that car drives from the apex of 1 all the way to turn 3. There's not another car that's not, bent going down the straightaways, but ours is just trucking straight off the corner, and a firm attribute that is part of why that car goes as well as it does. So we're letting the car do the work, not the tires. I mean, the car has to do the work to drive the car down the racetrack, of course, but I don't want the tires to turn the car.
Yep.
I want the car to tell the tires how to turn the car. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Anything else, Tanner?
You want to ask him the overall putt? I have a feeling I know what class he's going to choose, but we'll see.
So every driver, we like to ask if somebody were to walk up to you and hand you unlimited funds and unlimited resources and told you could race anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world in any class, which one would you choose?
No, I'm lucky enough to be driving one right now. I can drive a full-blown Super. You kidding? Thing's incredible.
Exactly.
Now, again, if we were talking about that the other day. I mean, like I said, with all the sponsors that are helping us go and where we are. I mean, we have all the same equipment those World Outlaw guys do. They just have 4 of what we have 1 of. And if we had another $500,000 in liquid spending cash go light on fire, we really could go run the tour like those guys do. The amount of tires and stuff those guys go through is incredible. But I would love to be on par with those guys. We have the equipment, we have the car. The drivers just got to catch up now. And same thing, those guys. I remember reading stats a month ago. Those guys already had 30 nights on the season, and this is night 3 for us. So again, same thing, just timing order of events. The ability to go race as much as those guys do. If I could do that, I think I could be one of them too. Just need the time and all the situations to go my way. But just give me a little bit of time here, and we'll keep pushing forward and see how fast we can really go.
3J to woo. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
The 3-car, baby.
Anything else you can think of, Tanner?
I don't think so.
All right. I think we'll wrap it up. So thank you, Jake.
Good deal, gentlemen. Appreciate you both.
Well, thank you.